This is Nate from RunDreamAchieve.com. Today's video, I want to talk on how to find my tempo pace. And the reason why this particular video I want to talk on this is because I've had a lot of different athletes from different backgrounds ask what is the proper way to find out what my tempo pace is. And it's a great question for sure. Your tempo pace or lactic, when you're training at your lactic threshold or your lactate threshold, your anaerobic threshold, you want to be training the body to, again, be able to call on those fat storage that we all have much more of rather than carbohydrate storage. And tempo pace itself should feel comfortably hard. So if you're training too anaerobically, you're only going to be able to sustain that particular pace for a few minutes. What you want to do is to be able to sustain your AT pace or your anaerobic threshold pace for closer to like an hour. It could be anywhere from 30 minutes up to an hour, 20 minutes for some. It just depends on how fit you are, your background in the sport. When I was doing tempo runs for the marathon, I would be doing tempo runs usually right around 40 minutes up to about an hour at that particular effort. And for me personally, when I was in my 30s, I would be doing my tempo runs at around 165 to 174 beats per minute. So it was right around between 85 and 92% of my maximum heart rate. So there are ways that you can find out what your maximum heart rate is. The easiest way, obviously, it's not as accurate, is to subtract your age from 220. You can find that a lot of those particular ways, discussions online. But another great way of finding out what your maximum heart rate is to do 3 800s on the track, and you want to give yourself 2 minutes recovery between each one of those 300 or those 800 repetitions. And in the last 800 meter, you want to run the last 400 meters as hard as you possibly can. And once you're done, now obviously you want to wear a heart rate monitor while you're doing that, but when you're done with that last 800 meter, look down and see what your heart rate is. And that's a good indicator of, and again, it's just an estimate, but it's a solid indicator of what your maximum heart rate is. So this particular video, I wanted to talk on about 3 different tips that you can keep in mind in terms of how to, this question of how do I find my tempo pace. You need to go off of feel. So it comes down to perceived effort. And again, tempo pace is going to feel comfortably hard. It's not going to feel like you're redlining too early, but it's an effort that obviously you're not going to be able to have a discussion with if you're training with somebody else, you're not going to be wanting to talk with them during a tempo run. So if you're trying to find out what your tempo pace is, it's definitely a pace that you're not going to have a discussion with anybody while you're doing your workout. Again, you want to go off of feel. It's perceived effort, so it's not so hard that you can only sustain the pace for a few minutes, like 3 to 5 minutes, but it is hard enough that you're going to be able to sustain that effort for several minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes up, onward, up to about an hour. Hours pushing it, but 20 to 40 minutes is solid. You can get a really big physiological boost from that particular amount of time training at your anaerobic threshold. And again, it's your anaerobic threshold is the point where lactic acid starts to build up in your bloodstream. It's the point when you cannot clear lactic acid faster than it's building up, is when you go actually into more, you're going into oxygen debt, you're going into more so training at your VO2 max. So you don't want to do that when training for a tempo run. It should be, again, comfortably hard, but not so hard that you cannot sustain that effort for a long period of time. And again, as I tell you, for newer athletes, it depends. A good indication of how hard you should be running your tempo runs when you're relatively new to the sport or you have some background in it is around 80 to 85% of your maximum heart rate. For a more advanced athlete, more toward the elite level type athlete, is going to be training closer to 90 to 92% of their maximum heart rate. So again, it's a really individual, and it is a tough question to answer. How do I find my tempo pace? Because every athlete's different. We all have different backgrounds, capabilities. So But again, whether you're brand new to the sport or you're an elite level athlete, it's going to come down to perceived effort and obviously your fitness level. When you're first starting out, a 2 to 3 mile tempo run, your heart rate's, you want to still focus on that particular heart rate, where we talk about between 80 to 90% of your maximum heart rate, depending on the background of the athlete. But early on, a 2 to 3 mile tempo run is going to feel very difficult. You haven't trained anaerobically enough, and you're just getting into that fit state that you're looking at a 16-week block of training. You're going to be able to do much longer tempo runs and train at a much at that particular AT effort for a longer period of time, because you obviously are very anaerobically fit further on in your training. So be patient with yourself. Don't start second guessing yourself early on in your training when you can't hold, say 2 or 3 miles or 5K to 10K effort for very long early on in your training. It just makes sense because you're not that fit yet. And allow yourself time to train, allow yourself time to adapt to the workouts you're doing, and you will be able to sustain longer training periods, like closer to 10K, 15K, 20K effort for your tempo runs. Again, it all depends on the athlete, what you're training for. If you're training for the marathon, you do want to focus on longer tempo runs, like 10K out to 20K, or even further, depending on what you're doing and your level of expertise. If you're training for a 5K or a 10K, 3 to 5 miles will be sufficient for a tempo run. But tempo runs around 15 to 25 seconds slower than your goal race pace. So again, you can go out and run your goal race pace for a given amount of time, but 15 to 25 seconds slower than your goal race pace, you're going to be able to sustain that. Again, it's comfortably hard. It's not so anaerobic that you're sprinting like you're doing in a VO2 max workout. So I hope that makes sense in terms of explaining, this question of how do I find my tempo pace. It's again a great question, and for me over the years, I found it obviously focusing mainly on perceived effort. Like I would always focus on heart rate monitor training is big for me. Okay, so since 1995 all the way up to around 2018, I trained 95% of my time with a heart rate monitor. The only times I ever didn't really wear a heart rate monitor was when I was doing easy long runs or just easy recovery runs after hard track sessions or road sessions. So I'm a big believer in heart rate monitor training. At the bottom of all my videos here on the RunDreamAchieve YouTube channel, I have some recommendations that you can check out on Amazon. But heart rate monitors will keep you more in line with the perceived effort, and you're focusing more on heart rate rather than worrying about pace. If you focus on perceived effort without a heart rate monitor, again, it goes back to it's comfortably hard. You should not be able to have a discussion with somebody while you're going at tempo effort. Again, you want to train not too slow, where there's not enough lactic acid buildup in your bloodstream and you're not training the body to sustain faster paces with that higher levels of lactic acid. But you also want to, but what you want to focus on is training at a high enough perceived effort that you have that lactic acid buildup in your bloodstream, and you're building that stamina and strength and teaching the body to be able to clear lactic acid faster than it's building up. And you're starting to rely more on what your body has much more of, and that's your fat storage. You do not want to rely on carbohydrates in a fast race or in a longer race. You want to be able to conserve carbohydrates and rely and burn fat at race pace, and obviously rely on what you have more of, and that's the fat storage rather than carbs. You want to have those carbohydrate to call upon later in the latter stages of your race, so that you can really sustain the effort and pick up the pace when your competition's slowing down. So I hope this video has been helpful for you all. If you have any other questions in regards to tempo efforts or any other particular topic, or maybe a topic you have in mind that you want me to make a video about and talk about, feel free to leave me a comment. I will definitely reach out to you, either answer your question or I'll make a video about it. So I hope you all have a great rest of your week. If you're brand new to the channel or you're a regular viewer, hit that bell icon and subscribe button so when I make new videos, you'll be notified. And I will talk to you all in the next video.